Okay, so today we have a really exciting Blender tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to make this fun little motion graphic animation in Blender. You can see here, this is it. It looks, it's a ton of fun. It's actually really simple to do. I'm not going to be showing you where to get these plant assets. They're just ones that I have that I chucked in here. But the overall thing here, this is what we're going to be making today. I'm going to show you step by step how to model these gears, how to set everything up, how to do some super simple animation, and how to set up the dynamic displacement here. So if this is something you want to learn, keep watching. And this result here will also be on my Patreon. You can check that out in the description below. So let's jump in and have some fun making this. Okay, so inside of Blender, I'm going to select all of the default objects, just going to press delete, and now we have a nice empty scene. I'm just going to go Shift A under mesh options. Let's add in, let's add in a circle. And let's tab into edit mode, and we have our vertex select option. We're going to make sure everything is active. I'm going to press F3 on our keyboard. We're just going to type in checker. We're going to do the checker deselect. Okay, so now we have every second one selected. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go S, so we're going to scale it. And we're going to scale it in about this much. We're then going to go Control I, so Control I or Command I, and that's going to inverse the selection. Then you can go Control Shift B or Command Shift B. You can bevel these verts. And let's go about this much and then roll your middle mouse button to add in more segments. I'm going to add in about this many. And I'm just going to click, and here we have it. We're now going to press A to select everything, E to extrude, and Z. And we're going to extrude up onto the Z about this much. And then we're going to go F to fill this. So pressing F. Then we're going to go E to extrude, S to scale. And then we're going to go E to extrude, S to scale again. And this time, actually, let's undo that. We only have this face here, okay? Scale it in, so it's about this big. And then go Shift Alt S. So Shift Alt and S, and then round this out. Okay, so Shift Alt and S, and you can kind of scale it up to whatever size. I'm going to go about this much. Then I'm going to go E to extrude and Z. I'm going to extrude it down all the way to the bottom, pretty much like so, but not quite touching. And I'm going to go X and just delete that face. We're now going to go to our mirror option or our modifier, and let's add in a mirror. Let's set it to Z, and let's enable clipping. Okay, so now that should all be working. We'll grab this bottom edge and just go G, Z, move it down till it clips. Over here, we're going to go Control R, left click, and then just move up. We're going to add in another loop to tighten it up here. Over here, we're going to go Control R, left click once, move it up. Control R, left click, let's add in another one, like so. And then we're going to go and give this a subdivision surface modifier. We're going to tab out, and we're going to right click and go shade smooth. So this is what we have at the moment. Now, over here, you can see it's a little bit messy. So let's just come in here, Control R, left click, just add in another loop just to tighten that up. And you can see we have some weird shading issues here. So just tab into edit mode, press A to select everything, and go Alt N and go recalculate outside, and it should fix any of those weird normal issues. So now we have this nice looking gear. Let's go to our top orthographic view, G, Y, and let's move it this way. Let's go ahead and give it another mirror modifier. And we're gonna go Shift A, and let's go add in a empty as a cube. Select the gear here, and let's take this new mirror, click on the eyedropper and select this for the reference. And let's set it on the Y axis. So now we have this, okay? Awesome. Now let's go to our top. We're gonna go Shift A. Let's add in a cube. With this cube active, we're gonna go S.5, and we're gonna press enter. So S.5. And then we're gonna go S, X, and 6. And then we're gonna press enter. So if we press N to bring up our properties, you go over to item, you can see these are the scale dimensions of this that we just did, okay? Or you can see here under the dimensions, so it's 6 and 1 by 1 by 1. So this is what we have. I'm gonna tab into edit mode. I'm gonna go Control R. We're gonna roll in some loops here, about this many. Double click. Control R, let's add in 2 segments here. Control R, let's add in 2 segments here. Then we're gonna press A to select everything, right click and go subdivide. Let's go to the subdivision here. Let's just bump that up a few times like this. And then we're gonna go to our smooth tool, and let's just smooth this out like so. And let's tab out, right click and go shade smooth. So now we have this bar here, and we need all of this division here. In fact, let's tab in, let's right click and subdivide one more time. we need this to be nice and subdivided, okay? Because we're going to be displacing it in a second. So let's go to our top view and let's grab this. Let's go GX and let's move it just till it's almost touching one of these gears, but not quite, so just in front of it. And what we're going to do now is we're going to come over here to our timeline. And on frame 1, we're going to come over here, we're going to press I, and we're going to insert a location keyframe on frame 1. Then we're going to come over to frame 80. And on frame 80, we're going to go GX, we're going to move it till it's about the halfway point. Then we're going to go I and insert a location keyframe. And then we're going to grab this and go Shift D to duplicate that keyframe. And let's drag this now over to frame 160. And then we're going to actually grab this first keyframe and go Shift D to duplicate and drag that to 160. And let's come here to our end frame value and make it 200, like so. So what we're going to have is this, like so, and then it goes back. But we want this to be linear. So we're going to select all of these keyframes. We're going to press T. We're going to make this linear. That's super important. We're then going to grab our gears here. And we're going to come to frame 1. And on frame 1, we're going to go I, and we're going to press I with the selected and insert a rotation keyframe. So rotation, not location. And then we're going to come up to frame 80, just like we did before. But this time we're going to come here to the Z rotation and we're going to make it 250. And hovering over this, we're going to press I to insert a keyframe. Then we're going to grab it and go Shift D to duplicate, take it to 90. And then once again, we're going to grab the first keyframe and go Shift D to duplicate and drag it to 160. Now this is for the rotation. So we're going to select all of them, press T, and let's make it linear. So we just have a linear animation. We don't want easing in or easing out. So we now go to frame 1 and we hit the spacebar. We can see this is what we have. Stops and then it goes back, like so. Okay, so now what we need to do is add the dynamics. So let's grab this bar over here. Let's go over to physics, properties here. Let's give this a dynamic paint. Let's make it a canvas, add canvas. Under the surface type, let's make it displace. And then let's select these gears. Let's give them a dynamic paint. Let's make them the brush. Let's add the brush. And now let's go to frame 1 and let's hit the space bar and it's going to run this for us. And you can see here it's a little bit messy. So, okay, so to fix that, what we're going to do is let's just select this gear over here. Let's just go G and Y and let's just move it a little bit more out and then go back. Let's try that and let's see if that makes things better. If it's not, we're just going to keep moving it out just a little bit and see what that does. Okay, so just moving it out a little bit further seems to help quite a bit here. But it's obviously not adding as many grooves as we'd like. So what I might do is just move it maybe in a little bit more. See if that does anything. Okay, so just try moving it in or out till it kind of gets rid of that issue. So in this case, it looks like I am going to have to move it out a little bit more before it really starts to make a difference. So something like this is at least still giving us that effect. What we could try is we can try giving this a subdivision surface modifier. Then let's go to frame 1. Let's try this out again. Let's see if that smooths things out. And it does smooth things out quite a bit. At least this is now working, which is exactly what we want. Okay, but how do we make this groove kind of go away after a while? So kind of like go back to the way it was. So the way we can do that is to grab this, go over to our physics, and under the canvas here, we can go down and enable dissolve. And then there is a dissolve value. So this is the amount of time it takes for it to dissolve. So if we make this something like 500, it's going to take 500 frames. So it'll pretty much stay the way it needs to stay. So it's not going to go back to its shape. So you can see that's kind of good. That's what we want. But we want that to kind of stop towards the end. So let's come up to frame 150. And frame 150, let's get the time value here. Let's make it 500 and click on the keyframe. And then we can come up to 160, and on 160 we can make this 50 and then click on a keyframe. So now let's go to frame 1, let's hit the spacebar. But we can see now we'll have it staying this way, but as it's now going back, it's gonna kind of dissolve back to where it was. And that makes it kind of repeatable, as you can see here, right? And that's kind of cool. That's exactly what we're looking for. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go Shift A. We're gonna go to our mesh. Let's add in a circle. Let's go G, Z, just move it up, and let's scale it down a bit. And let's go to edit mode and extrude it down quite a bit. And let's go to our top view, let's tab back out, and let's just go G, so we're in object mode now. We're just gonna place the cylinder here in the middle like this. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So just something like that with a little bit of a gap. And let's go into edit mode and let's just select this top, bring it down. Let's just press F to fill that and then go Control B to bevel. And then let's select this face over here and go E to extrude as to scale. And let's go E to extrude and just extrude it down a bit like so. And let's go Control B just to bevel it. And let's grab this face, E to extrude, let's scale it, E to extrude up. And let's go Control B and just give that a bevel. And maybe let's just grab this edge here and go Control B and give that a bevel. So something like this. And then we're gonna just select over here on the bottom. We're gonna take that to the top. We're gonna press F to fill, Control B, let's give it a bit of a bevel. And let's select that face, E to extrude as to scale. And let's go E, Z and extrude it down a little bit. And then E to extrude and Z, let's extrude it down quite a bit. And then let's go X and delete that face. So now we have kind of this thing over here. We're going to tab back out, right click and go shade smooth. And let's give that a subdivision surface modifier. We're also going to go ahead and give it a mirror. Click on the eyedropper and then select that empty as a reference. And let's make it Y as well. So now we have it mirrored on both sides. And this is, I just think this looks really kind of cool, this sort of thing. And we're going to keep it at that. So now we're going to go Shift A. Let's add in fact, let's do this way. We're going to grab this thing here, tab in. We're going to go to our edge select or maybe our face select, and we're going to go Shift, Alt, and just left click and loop select a loop and go Control plus to grow it. Then we're going to go Shift D to duplicate, and we're going to go P and we're going to separate selection. We're going to tab back out, and with this new selection, we're going to go over to our modifiers and get rid of the dynamic paint. So we're just going to actually maybe go over to our physics. Let's just get rid of dynamic paint. And let's get rid of the subdiv and let's tab in, A to select everything, and let's go E to extrude, right click to let go, and let's go Alt S and scale out along the normals. And let's press A to select everything and go Alt N and recalculate the normals as well. And let's actually give this a subdivision surface modifier. Let's go Shift D to duplicate and Y or X and move it over. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go tab back out, Shift A, let's add in a cylinder. We're going to move it over here and scale it way down and move it up. And in our front orthographic, we're just going to rotate it 90 degrees. And this is just going to be a little thing that holds this together. So we're going to go like so, scale it along the X. And let's go into edit mode and just delete these end faces. Select the whole thing and then go Shift D, R90. Just to duplicate it this way and place it up. And let's go select these top verts and go G, Z and move them way up like so. And now we have this thing over here. We're going to right click and go shade smooth. So let's just quickly grab this thing here, holding in Shift, select this bit and go Control J and just join them. Now they're all one piece, and we're going to go over to frame 1. And this should actually have the same animation data because we created this mesh from this object here. But if it doesn't, just select it, and on frame 1 you can parent it to this object here, and that'll do the same thing. But that just is going to make it look like there's something pushing this. Now we're going to go Shift A, add in a plane, scale it up about this much. We're going to go G, Z, move it down to about here. And now let's go to the top here. Let's go Shift A, add in a camera, and let's move our camera up like so. Place it over here. And let's go over to our camera settings. We're going to make this an orthographic. Under our render settings or our output properties, we're going to make it 1080 by 1080 on the X and the Y. And let's go press 0 to go to camera view. And you can press G with the camera active to move it. And you can also go over to your camera settings and you can mess around with this orthographic scale to zoom in or out. But for me, I'm just going to rotate my camera a little bit, and I'm going to get it to a point where it looks good to me. So I'm going to go something like this, maybe zoom in a little bit more here with the orthographic scale. You guys can mess around with it however you want, but I'm going to go with something like this. And then once you're happy with that, you're going to go over to your render settings. Let's give this a cycles engine. If you have a GPU, I'd recommend you use it. And under the samples here, let's just make it 90 for the max render samples. And let's just save it. So I'm just going to go Control S and just going to save it to my desktop for now. And let's go Shift A. Let's add in an area light and move it up. And of this area light, we're going to go to our light settings. Let's make it 300 on the strength. Let's give it a size of 2 meters. And let's go to our front view. Let's move it over to the side and rotate it in. And then go to our top view. We're going to go Shift D to duplicate. And we're just going to duplicate this a few times and just place it kind of around here to get some nice rim lighting. And let's go into our camera. Let's go Z and let's go rendered. You can see we already have some nice lighting here. I'm just going to go Control B just to limit the render to the camera. And then we're also going to let's just actually grab one of these lights, duplicate it, bring it in a bit closer and increase the strength to 400. And then let's just duplicate them just to get some nice rim lighting just behind these gears here, like that. Okay, that's looking quite nice. And once we add the materials, that's really going to kind of come together, but something like that. And if you want to, you could also go to your world properties and add in an environment texture. This is optional, but I'm going to do it. And I've got some HDRIs on my computer. I'm just going to use one. So I'm going to go probably with just a studio one that I have and just maybe give it a strength of like 0.5. But that's optional. We just want some nice lighting here. And then we're going to go over to our shading workspace. Let's go Z, let's go rendered. And let's select the first metal gear bit. Let's go new and let's just call it gear. And we're going to come over here and we're going to make it metallic. We're going to bring down the roughness. And we're going to come here to the base color and just make it a bit darker. Feel free to add a texture if you wish. I'm then going to grab this bit over here, the holder. I'm going to give that same gear material. And then we're going to grab these inside holder rods. We're going to give them a new material. And we're going to make the color kind of like a yellowish orange. We're going to make it metallic. Bring down the roughness, and this is going to be kind of like a gold material, which I think looks pretty cool. We're then going to select this bar over here. We're going to go new, and let's give this a nice kind of reddish material, reddish pink. And what we're going to do to make this look really cool is if we grab this mix, this material output and move it over, we're going to go Shift A, search and get a mix shader and place it over here. And then we're going to duplicate this principle and plug it into the bottom of the socket. This material, we're going to make a nice blue kind of color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go Shift A, search and get a geometry node. And we're going to take the pointiness value and plug it into the factor. And then we're going to go Shift A, search and get a color ramp node. Place it over here. And just for now, let's just visualize this output. Oops. And let's just go Z and go rendered. And what we need to do is we need to kind of grab this black value and this white value and bring them closer together till we can kind of see the pointiness value here in action. Now, obviously, we need to go back maybe to frame 1 and just run this again, just so we can actually see it because it hasn't been cached yet. And then when we render, we can actually see where the pointiness is. So you can kind of mess around with the slider. And we want the white values to be primarily here where it's going to be giving us kind of like these kind of folds over here. So now it's going to use this value map here to mix these two shaders with the mix shader. So now you can see we have this kind of blue coming through here where it's getting squished. And then we have this other color here. That just makes it look like it's a squishy kind of substance with something underneath it that's kind of getting exposed. Kind of like those jelly toys you get when you're a kid and you can squish. And I just think this is kind of a cool way to make this look really awesome. You can add some texture to this like I did to my original, but I'm just going to keep it simple for now. And one more thing, let's just quickly go over to the internet. And you can go over to a site called polyhaven.com. Super easy. Just type in Polyhaven. And you can go over to the textures, and under the floor textures, I'm going to download this laminate one here. It'll download it as a blend file in a folder. And you can see over here in my downloads, I've already downloaded it as a zip and then extracted the zip. And all you're going to do is in your file, you're going to go File, Append, go to your downloads, and then go to that whatever one you downloaded. I'd recommend you get the laminate floor. I will put a link in the description. And then you're going to open it, click on a blend file, go to material, and then click on laminate floor. Then you're going to select the floor, come to your drop down, and give it that laminate floor material. And now it's already set up for you. Voila, and that's all you have to do. You can actually come over here in the node setup and control the scale, which is really cool. I'm just going to go something like 2. And what I'd also recommend you do is grab your camera, and let's go to our camera settings, enable depth of field, click on the little eyedropper, and then select your empty here. And then you can just increase this f-stop till you get this nice soft focus in the background. But over here, it's looking nice and soft. In fact, technically there is no background here because we're dealing with orthographic, but it still just adds a little bit of softness to it, which I think looks really cool. So by all means, mess around with your lights. The more you add in and experiment with, the cooler it could look. With my original, I really kind of messed around with my lights a lot more. I really tried to place the lights just behind these gears here, so you can kind of get this nice rim lighting that kind of catches it, something like that, as you can see. And I think that just really adds to this. So just, spend as much time as you want. Obviously, I'm just doing the tutorial, so I'm going to keep it simple. But, something like that looks cool. I think for my original, even I grabbed these rods here and I just added that gear material, and I just kind of went in here and just added that to the inside just to mix it up a little bit. But other than that, it just worked really good, and I think it looks cool. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. And if you want to render this out, you can go to your output settings. You can go to your folder here, choose something like your desktop, and you can change it to an FFmpeg video. Under the encoder, you can make it an MP4, make sure to save. And of course, one thing you want to do is just select the bar over here, go over to your physics properties, and under the dynamic paint, you just want to go down to the cache. Make sure over here on the top it says 200 on the end frame, the end value here, and then you can go bake. And it's going to bake this, and it's going to create a bake file. And now you know it'll work when you render it. So make sure to save. You can go render and then render out the final animation. So here you can see is my original. Only thing is I've also added in some plant assets that I have, but it's the exact same thing. And I really hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. Spend as much time as you want. Here you can see I really went crazy with my lighting, and I spent a little bit more time on my materials here, but it all came out really well. And this will be the one that's on my Patreon. So I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.